Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio and Honey Badger Arcade. I am your host, Brian, here using the Vivian James puppet. No, I am not a VTuber. No, I am not confused about my gender. This is simply a symbol of what it is that we are fighting for in the culture war, or at least this sort of corner of it. Um, and this is Badgerpod GamerGate, the return of Badgerpod GamerGate. We used to do this back in 2014, 2015, and it looks like it is now necessary once again. So, welcome everyone to the show, wherever you might be watching. A quick shout out to the Rumble Gang for helping us grow alternative programming on this platform. And before we get into it, I will ask that you guys please consider subscribing to the channel, either Badger live streams or Honey Badger Arcade, whichever you prefer. If you're more of like a gaming nerd or whatever, go to Honey Badger Arcade. If you want like the really deep dives into the political nuance and like all of the crazy stuff going on in the world, then check out Badger live streams if your heart can take it. Okay, so Badgerpod GamerGate is basically a series that we used to do back in 2014, 2015 that discusses everything that was going on with the Gamergate hashtag. And now that Gamergate has sort of, well, if you ask me, it never went away. Like the whole thing is essentially a massive cultural attack that's happening to our space, and the purpose of it is to, I think, re-engineer society, direct and force behaviors, as Mr. Larry Fink says, and we are aware of it. We know what they're doing, and we should be able to speak out. So that's what we are up to. Okay. So I am currently in Twitter Spaces, and I see there's a few people in here already. So if you guys want to join the Twitter Space, I could call on you to like basically, if you have a few things that you want to say, I'll make you into a speaker temporarily, let you say some stuff regarding like the topic. And before we get into that, though, there's a couple of news items I want to talk about. And then I'll take some of your commentary. I see we got Chit Chat Cat and Problematic White Guy, David Devan. Welcome. If you guys want to be called on, I think you can like raise your hand. I'm not really sure how this works in Twitter Spaces, but I'll figure it out. I've done it like once before, so it can be a bit tough. But we're gonna look at some stuff going on in the space, and I think it's good stuff. So, just okay to be aware, so you guys know. Grums, his name is Mark Kern. He is a game developer. He used to work for Blizzard Entertainment and was a big man in charge of the production of games like StarCraft and World of Warcraft. So no slouch in that department. He was pretty active during Gamergate back in 2014, but he has definitely stepped up a lot more. I think that in the amount of time that has passed, him and a lot of other people have become more aware of, like, I guess, how serious it is, how important culture is. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a world of brutalist structures and no art and no fun. It is a tool of demoralization. It is intended to destroy our will and our desire for beauty, and I want to fight against that. I feel very strongly about that, and that's why Gamergate matters to me. So anyway, Grums has been pretty vocal. Essentially, he's turned into the libs of TikTok for Gamergate. All he does is he goes and posts the kind of things that various community managers and people in HR and other sort of positions of tremendous social power are saying, and he's just putting it out there and sharing it with people. It's their words, and they hate him for it. It is like they say, in the what is it in the New Testament, they hated Jesus because he told them the truth. It's basically that. So, oh hey, InQcell, welcome. So what is the deal with? There's a couple things about this that I really want to touch on. So what is the deal with these community managers? So I'm not one to like get into every little event every time somebody tweets or every little thing that comes out of Twitter, because it's sort of an endless slog, And I think that it's more useful to sort of say, there, here is the pattern, here's where it comes from, this is what you're dealing with, okay? So this is from That Park Place. Jonathan Trent is a friend of the channel. I have interviewed him on HBR along with John Delarose. I also have one of his websites, which is Fandom Pulse, on here as well. Just a quick shout out to those guys. If you're not following them, you should, because they're doing good work over there. They're not, they're trying to do real journalism and tell us what's really going on. And not all of it is sort of like culture war oriented. And it's just legitimately informative. And I think that if they became a more viable platform, then we can get, we can essentially like benefit more as a culture from people who are being honest. So the headline of this article is Helldivers 2 community manager declares game is, quote, pretty woke, end quote, and reveals game was banning individuals she deemed bigots, transphobes, homophobes, and racists. And I don't know if you guys are aware of Helldivers 2, but tremendously popular game right now. It's got memes all over the internet. And one of the main reasons why I think it's very popular is because it is made by people who just wanted to make a fun game for the most part. The problem is that sometimes developers, programmers, and the people who are doing the really hard work of essentially keeping the games up to date, keeping everything working, and making sure that we're all having fun, they don't have the time to essentially manage communities and communicate with the customers, and get feedback from those customers. So they hire community managers. Also, a lot of times these guys are kind of introverted and it's not really like what they're good at. So they get people that they think would fit the bill. And the problem with that is that's where the entryism happens. And so you have this event, this sort of, it's not even an event, it's a climate of human resources people and community managers and moderators and people who run the forums and discussions and all that, and they're all politically like infected, I'll just say. As Gad Sad says, they have this woke social justice parasite that they're carrying with them because they picked it up in their universities and in schools, and it's all around them, so they just take it with them into the workplace. This is why, by the way, when you point out what they're doing is woke, they're actually kind of like shocked because they think that their perspective is common sense. They think that what they're doing is just like normal, like any decent normal human being should believe these things that I believe, and they don't realize that they're actually like pretty insufferable. So let's read a little bit of this article. Helldivers 2 community manager Catherine Baskin declares that the game is pretty woke and reveals the game was banning individuals she and the developer Arrowhead Game Studios deemed bigots, transphobes, homophobes, and racists. As brought to public attention by Mark Kern, aka Grums, on X last month, Baskin replied to a Steam curator list that recommended Helldivers 2 and claimed the game was not woke. She initially just wrote LMAO. However, in a response later in the thread, she wrote, plus Helldivers is pretty woke, dog. Because, overweight white chicks should not say dog as like a way to accent their sentence. It's just a word of advice. Don't, it sounds wrong. And we minorities, we haven't said dog like that in like decades. So you just look like a boomer. Anyway, game was made by a lot of LGBTQ and brown people and black people and women, and it's a big satire of jingoism. She added, it amuses me they don't know that Super Earth is bad. It also explains a lot about the world at present. Okay, so I just want to reply to this in a couple of ways. So, I got into a little bit of a spat, and I want to get into a little bit of I don't like, again, to get into the minutia because it's not as important as the overall pattern, but I guess I see this as an opportunity to show you, like, why does she believe this, even though we don't, okay? Because, like, we're looking at the same thing, but she's seeing something different from us. We know that what's happening is it's kind of like there's a send-up of all of these kind of 80s and 90s, military flicks, mostly taking from Starship Troopers, but not exclusively. That's what the first game was like. I played the first game. And it's just more like the aesthetic. It's not like they were saying this is our politics and we're putting it in the game. So when you're just putting like an aesthetic or a theme of something and you make it look silly, I mean, the game is comical, as hell, while also being pretty violent. These people don't see that because they don't know what fun is. So to them, everything has to mean something. And so what happened on Twitter was somebody was echoing these statements, and I said, so what makes well, I actually started by saying, actually, it's not jingoism and it's not fascism, because there was an IGN guy that said, oh yeah, it's fascism, but it's fun, right? Like, we needed to hear the first part of that. Like, who cares? I don't care what it is. Like, is the game fun? That's it. See, the fact that they even say, well, it's fascist or it's jingoist or whatever, but it's fun, they're still sending the first part of that message. They still want you to think of it in this negative way, even though they're saying, but no, but you know what? I'm kidding, bro. It's kind of like, it's like that I'm just saying meme, like, just saying. No, you're not just saying. You're trying to deliver a message, but you don't want to get caught out because you're doing it in such a, like, cowardly way, really. It's a coward's way. Why don't you just admit that you're allergic to fun and move on? Because the rest of us are just having fun. Well, anyway, I said, well, it's actually managed democracy, and that's how they describe it. Now, I'm not for managed democracy. But that's not really what this whole thing is about. It's not about what I like or dislike in the real world. I'm just pointing out what the game's themes are, right? And somebody got tried to educate me on what it was, even and tried to insult my intelligence, saying, well, I feel like I'm arguing with myself from when I was 9 years old, herder. And I say, this sounds like what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the case that the faction that the players play as, which is Super Earth, is worse than the people that we're fighting against, which are the automatons and the bugs, right? And he was like, well, they are. And I was like, well, based on what? Like, what's an automaton society look like? What does a bug society look like? Do we really want that? What happens if every player in the game stops playing the game? Do you know what happens? I mean, besides the servers being shut down? The bugs and automatons move in on Super Earth and annihilate everybody. So it's a war. That's it. It's a war. Like, and it bugs me because they're trying to put their morality into it. They're trying to make it fit into this fictional world of giant bugs and robots and humans. Like, I mean, like, and they're saying the humans are worse, and it sort of shows like what they think. Like, and to bring it to something political in the real world, it's that you are the carbon they're trying to reduce. Like, I just saw like I forget her name, but she was like a woman who studies gorillas and like primates and primatologists, I think they call it. And she was at the World Economic Forum saying that we need to reduce the human population to 10%. She's the woman that would say, the humans in Helldivers 2 are actually the villains. And the bugs should eat them all and kill them, or the robots. So it's like, this isn't about the game. It tells you what is in their heart, like what they really think. And I said, so to me, it sounds like Warhammer 40,000. So if you guys are familiar with Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer 40K, as a lot of people call it today, like the human faction or the Imperium of Man is like, no one in that world is good. Okay? Like, let's get this straight. There is no good side, but the Imperium of Man is probably the least awful. And I said, well, maybe, I mean, like, you could argue at least that they're the most like us, like as humans. And I asked him about that, and he said, no, like, they're at least as bad, if not worse. And I'm like, worse than like the Chaos Demons? Worse than the fucking, like, the Dark Eldar? Like, worse than these other factions? Are you fucking kidding me? But yeah, of course they believe that. So when she says that this stuff, like this person that's in charge of communication between the developers and the customer base, they're saying this, and you can see that, like, first of all, you can see what they think about humanity, but especially what they think about gamers, because these people, community managers, HR people, etc., they hate gamers, okay? And they do, and it's like they're like the worst people to hire on. So, and they're all wrong about this. Like, again, if you can't just see it for what it is, which is a video game, then you probably shouldn't work there. And I advise, because like people were saying, oh no, is Helldivers woke? No, I don't think it is. Like, I think that what we have to maintain is, that's why I'm bringing all this up. The thing that we have to understand is that these people will interpret whatever they want out of it, and they will try to gaslight you into thinking something that isn't true. But I think you can tell if something is shoving politics down your throat, and if something is simply, has like political elements in it. And for the most part, Helldivers is a action team-based co-op game, period. And everything else is just the backdrop for it. So, you can argue it's jingoist or militaristic or whatever. That doesn't matter. It's like saying Call of Duty is right wing. Like, why? But this is what they would say, though. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's silly, but this makes an important point about something else. So I made a video on the channel Honey Badger Arcade about entryism and how these people do like enter into into any space, and they basically convert it into a woke space. First of all, but before I keep going, let me know, like, how do I sound? Is the sound okay? I know that I got background music playing above me right now, and I don't know if that's like really, really distracting. If it is, I'll lower the volume on it a little bit more. You might not even hear it, actually. Now that I think about it. I don't see any. Oh no, it's playing. It's playing. It's just really low. Okay. I sound fine. Thank you. Yeah, it's barely audible. Okay, I'm gonna raise it a little bit more because I mean, I want it to be like low, but not like silent. Everything sounds fine. Okay. So anyway, I'll read some more. She added, it amuses me they don't know that Super Earth is bad. It also explains a lot about the world at present. So what she's suggesting is that if you don't think Super Earth is bad, it means that you're bad because she thinks that they're bad. That's what, when she says, it also explains a lot about the world at present. That's what she's saying. She is criticizing you for having the wrong views. Okay? In the same thread, Baskin revealed that she and developer Arrowhead Game Studios were banning individuals from the game's Discord that they deemed as bigots. She wrote, "We only ban the bigots, transphobes, homophobes, racists, etc. are not welcome in our community. Sorry. We had to restrict the topics in the HD2 general chats for a while because it was triggering massive waves of hate speech, which our staff was struggling with emotionally," she added. So this was when somebody said, didn't they ban people from the Discord for suggesting they add LGBTQ colored capes, which I heard is true. Now, again, so we have this community manager. She's obviously a communist. I'm just going to call them communists. Is that okay? Do you mind if I call them communists? She's a communist, and she's basically saying, no, we only ban the bigots. So she gets to decide who the bigots are, and she gets to be involved with the banning. And she also, because she's the community manager, according to Grums, who spoke about this at length on a couple podcasts earlier this week, she gets to decide like what the people who run Arrowhead Studios that are not doing community management stuff, she gets to essentially interpret. She is the filter. So when they ask her, like, what does this community look like? Or, how do these people feel about this game or whatever? She's the one that gets to say, well, we do have some bigots. We should get rid of them. And they'll just be like, okay, go ahead, right? Like, there's no discernment because these guys don't have time because they're busy working on the game. I mean, like, especially Helldivers 2, because it's like a real-time sort of like, it's like one of these games that evolves, so they need people constantly working on it to change things, add missions, add, elements, whatever. It's almost like there's a game master that runs Helldivers 2. So she can essentially say, these people are bad, wrong, and these people, can stay or whatever. And that is the problem. So going back to what I was saying about entryism, and then I'll take some requests from people. The way that entryism works is like this. A person, step one, they ask to be included in the space. Now, usually this is a very difficult place to stop people, unless you're going to have the time to basically be like really inquisitive and be like, okay, well, what is your interest in this, right? So they will ask to be included. Now, that's usually an easy one for them to pass. Like I said before, people don't tend to be exclusive on things. So we'll use this woman as an example, Baskin. So she's like, oh, I like video games too. May I join your company? I would like to be involved. and they would like see, they're, oh yeah, sure, why not, right? This is usually how it starts. The second step is they start asking for accommodation. So she'll be in there and she'll be like, I like this place a lot. Like, I'm totally a video game nerd and everything, and I love games, but like, this isn't really like really super welcoming to women. Can we do something about that? Like, I mean, just, maybe I can have like my own little position and over here, like, I don't know if I want to be with these guys. It's like a boys club, and I think that needs to change. And so what they'll do, this is the step that's important. This is when you have to be like, wait a minute. Like, I don't think you're legit. But a lot of people miss this step. And so they're like, okay, we'll make some accommodations. We'll make some changes around here. And all of a sudden they change the climate or the environment, right? It's kind of like what happens, on Badger live streams. I talk to guys in the military, they're like veterans, right? Or they're currently enlisted, and they get deployed here or there. And there was a couple of guys I spoke to, and I asked them about women in their units, and they said that they very, very infrequently had women in their units, and the reason is because the moment a woman joins a unit, and it doesn't matter if the women are there just to do the work, it changes the dynamic completely. Like, all of a sudden, the men are going to behave differently just because there's a woman there. And there are a number of policy issues that make that whole thing just hard to deal with, right? So even in the places where it's probably the most crucial for people to be hardcore focused on the job, a little bit of accommodation can essentially throw that like all the way out. Imagine being in a military unit and there's someone there and you know that no one is operating at 100%. Like that's like the stakes, the risk is just too high, right? So the second step is they ask for accommodation. The third step is that they want a seat at the table. They want to have some kind of power over a small like area. Maybe they ask for a department. Maybe they ask for a certain position. Maybe they ask for like a new department to be created, or they ask to be community managers like this woman. And when they get a seat at the table, they start using that seat at the table to essentially try to take over the whole table. Okay? And that's the next step. They take over the whole table. And they'll do it. That could take a while, or it can be very fast. Sometimes you could just use something like Me Too, which has been done to take over entire companies. I think, and maybe you don't agree, or I don't know, but I think that the Me Too movement was what was used to kick a bunch of people out of Blizzard. I think it was used in a lot of different areas to essentially throw men out and replace them with women, because that's usually how it works. And they get power that way. It worked in the animation industry. And I think it worked in the video game industry in large part. I think it works in politics. It's worked in the corporate level, in the boardrooms. It's worked everywhere. So they start demanding control of the table, and then they want to control the whole space. And that's when you've lost it. Now, when they have a seat at the table, it is still possible to stop them. And what has to happen is that the people at the top have to, number one, grow a spine and be willing to fire people. But also they have to be made aware of what is happening. If you look at Disney, the people at Disney, they're all possessed now. Like when Walt was there, when Walt was alive even, this process had probably already started. Like maybe it was at the very like bottom levels, but it was probably already started. And now that Walt is like long dead and gone, and these people run everything, there's almost no way to like get it back. Okay. So this is entryism. And there's an extra insidious version of entryism that we call stochastic entryism. And that's what DEI is. So DEI is used to get people who are from marginalized groups and women, which are not marginalized because there's literally a majority of them, but they count because patriarchy. It's used to get them into these positions. And why it's called stochastic entryism is that the people who are enforcing the DEI, they're banking on, essentially it's like they're betting on the odds that the people that they're going to get in are also going to be woke people that want to change the that want to invite more of their woke friends. Because think of it like this. If you had to get into something on merit alone, then you're most likely going to be really resistant to any like kind of affirmative action, because you're going to be like, well, I worked hard for this, and so I want to work in this position. But if you get in and you're convinced that the only reason why you got it was because of some system that was put in place to ensure that you got a position or increase your odds, and that otherwise you would never have gotten it because of systemic oppression and institutional systems of systemicness, then you're going to be more likely to not just like treat your job as something that you are entitled to, along with anything else you get out of it, but you're going to be more likely to bring on more people, and you're all going to have chips on your shoulder because you're convinced that you're being kept out by like bigoted people. And so it's going to have a domino effect, and it's going to essentially destroy the company. And these people are okay with that. Like, money is a part of it, but I think mostly there is a glee in having this power. The power to be community manager or HR, that those are extremely powerful positions that people take for granted. So anyway, I wanted to use that to say that I don't think Helldivers 2 is lost yet, but I hope, I don't know how it's going to happen, but the guys at Arrowhead Studios, they have to keep an eye on these people. I'm sure that there are like LGBTQ people and people of color that work there, but that doesn't mean they're woke, because what she's saying is, if you're anti-woke, you're anti-blacks and gays and women. But that's not what it is. Like, you're anti-communist. That's what it is. That's what it is. Anti-woke is anti-communist. So, all right, anyway, I'm going to take some requests from people inside of the Twitter space. So let me go ahead and see who is asking to talk. And I'm going to prove in QCell. Let's see if he can speak. All right, I'm just going to wait and see if he talks. In QCell, I gave you permission to talk, I think. Can you talk? You might have to unmute if you can. Meanwhile, if you guys want to send a super chat or a super chow, I will read it on the show. So, all right. See, now, I will approve of Chit Chat Cat to talk to. Okay, Chit Chat Cat, welcome to the thing. What do you want to say, sir? Chit Cat, you're muted. Unmute and talk. Go ahead.
So I'm not sure if you saw that the community manager for Arrowhead, like Helldivers 2, she changed her profile, but most of the information was still kept the same. So I think maybe Arrowhead said to it's like, all right, change your stuff. It's a bit problematic, but she didn't actually change it, because, like, for example, initially there was a Palestinian flag in a bio, and if you look at the,
and she changed the flag to like a watermelon or something. Yeah, it's like the new covert way to support Palestine.
Exactly, and that's what I wanted to mention, because most people aren't aware of the fact that the watermelon is like the new Palestinian flag, because most people aren't aware of like, oh, this is our subtle way of saying we support Palestine. And so for me, it's the fact that she was able to like have this kind of profile while working at a company is obviously concerning, because as you mentioned now with Entryism, once these people get in, they're going to try and find ways to get more people. And a lot of people were saying, oh no, just because she's woke doesn't mean the company's woke. The issue that a lot of people fail to understand is that there is an enforcement mechanism that exists with all community managers, whereby it's a whisper network and they all tell each other that what they need to do. And it's much similar to the whisper network we had with the gaming journalists back in the early days of GamerGate.
And it's also happening in the comic book industry, that the people who got Ed Pisker to take his own life. Yeah, there's whisper networks everywhere. It's women, guys. It's women mostly. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, just to talk about the whisper networks, you need to just check, you need to look into the TTRPG whisper network. It makes what happened with gaming and comics seem like child's play, because these people are actually psychopathic. A researcher went to go and interview them, and she was like, I don't know, like what I saw. And then she took down the article.
TTRPG? Like tabletop?
Yeah, so the Yeah.
Okay. I want to look into that because I'm a big tabletop guy. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and so with that Whisper network, obviously what happened like with Gamergate, Jason Stride and a lot of other people, surprisingly, were initially against the kind of tactics that a lot of the other journalists wanted to use. And what that Whisper network did was they attacked them and eventually they gave in. So now if you have a community or other network of community managers telling each other what to do, you're obviously going to have every single person that happens to be part of that network pushing the message because they don't want to get attacked. Because as much as Jason Schreier tries to claim that he's a pillar of moral integrity, he isn't. He's just like every other progressive you can come across. And so when someone like that is at a company, they go in to push the message. And we know for a fact that HR also plays a part into this because HR does the hiring and firing. If this chick was working at my company, I would have fired her because I'm like, you're bad for PR. You're bad for the company's reputation. You need to go. The fact that Arrowhead kept her there means someone at HR said, hey, listen, you can still stay here and do what you're doing, but could you be more subtle about it? Could you not be like so out there so people don't make a hullabaloo about it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, odds are that most of the people at Arrowhead are probably like to some degree in agreement with her, like politically, or they would say they are. I have no doubt about that. I think that they probably there is another factor to this too, is that if they just fired her, she could probably like wreck that company with like legislation and all this because like I think that a lot of times these people they got their jobs by accusing people of racism and sexism and sexual harassment, etc. And so like if you fire a woman, I mean she'll just destroy your company with lawsuits. So they're probably like, okay, we don't want a media shitstorm because like all of the mainstream journals are going to come after us. Alyssa Mercante will write articles, right, about Arrowhead Studios sexism, and it'll probably ruin them. So they're like, we have to negotiate. I mean, this is me being as charitable as possible to the developers. Odds are they're probably somewhat liberal and they're just like, fine. And they're just asking her to stop drawing attention to them because they're trying to sell this game. But I think that there's also a legitimate fear that, you know, they could be canceled. Does that make sense?
You know, I can. It does make sense, and I do get that because obviously the way the Americans. Wait, are they even an American company or are they somewhere else?
I'm pretty sure they're an American company, but I don't know for sure. I I I think that people in tech are like that. I think that they tend to be introverted. They tend to be, you know, kind of not like socially, you know, like strong, like in terms of their will and stuff. So I don't want to say cowards, but there is a lot of that, you know, especially when it comes again to being accused of bigotry. I think people are generally afraid of that. So because they're
Oh
not.
yeah, no,
That's
oh, definitely. And because if I look back, yesterday I had a conversation with a bunch of people on political themes and ideological messaging because there was this big disagreement. I'm not sure if you saw someone made a tweet about it. Like creatives face this battle of wanting to create something, but it could be made political by people. And when it comes obviously to the side where when we get into ESG and everything else, I wanted to bring it up, and as soon as I said ESG, the host of
oh.
the space was like, no, that's a bit too conspiratorial.
Oh,
And I'm thinking
really?
to myself, yeah, and I was just like, this isn't a conspiracy. We have all the evidence,
Yeah,
but
no,
this is the issue
it
that
exists. Like it exists.
yeah, and the issue that we sit with, and that's the same thing that we saw with the community managers. That a lot of people were like, oh no, the community manager being woke isn't a problem, but it's like let's look at Ubisoft for example. Their community manager is a carbon copy of the one at Arrowhead. If you go look at a Twitter, same talking points, no original thoughts. Ubisoft is a woke company, and so it's
Oh,
like we need
absolutely.
to look at the kind of people that's working there. If someone is working there as a red flag, we need to scrutinize the company. Because, for example, when a lot of people, for me, like my way of entertaining video game is, does it come across in any small way? Like, so for example, with Helldivers, I might be speaking under correction, is that you don't get to choose male or female, you get to choose body type, right? Like, I think you get to
Hmm.
choose like a much more bulky body type and then a more skinny one.
In what? What game are you talking about? Helldivers?
Yeah, Helldivers 2. That's
Yeah.
why I said I'm speaking on the
Yeah, it's like
prediction.
there's like a bulky body type and a lean body type. They don't say male or female. I caught that right away, and I thought, it could be because of that, but it also could have been just them trying to avoid like trouble altogether, because ultimately everyone in that game is faceless. There are no races, and there are male voices and female voices, and there's no like middle ground, like Caitlyn Jenner voice. Like there's no weird voice. so, so I mean, it could be. I'm inclined to think that in most cases, when something appears to be woke, if it isn't like really in your face, it's probably like more than likely an incidental thing. I do think that there is that definitely, because like if you play Baldur's Gate 3, when you make a character in Baldur's Gate 3, some people say Baldur's Gate 3 is not woke or whatever because Larian is good to their
What?
customers. But yeah, a lot of people have said that. Like they generally don't attack their customers, put it that way. But when you make a character in Baldur's Gate 3,
Solo.
but when you make a character in Baldur's Gate 3, you do get to choose non-binary as a gender option. And they tell you it's called non-binary. They say male, female, non-binary, and other, even though the body types are the same. There's just like a male body and a female body, right? So they're obviously like leaning into it enough that they don't. But again, some of this stuff is a fear of the backlash if they don't do it, rather than people from within the company pushing it. And I don't know which of those is the case. So I think that's why we have to like sort of exercise our own judgment. But give me some final thoughts, and then I'm going to move on to the next person.
All right, I'll just say this. In regards to the whole body type thing, we do need to look at that also as another red flag, because so far we have the body types, we have the community manager, and I'm not sure if you noticed the very same day, like found that community manager, there was like multiple articles that came out about it. I think the same day or the next day.
Of the Ubisoft one?
Not the Ubisoft one, about the Arrowhead.
The which? Arrowhead, yeah, okay, the Arrowhead one, yeah, Baskin, sure.
Yeah, so multiple publications came out with an article basically saying, oh, the GamerGaters have now went after Helldivers 2's community manager.
Yeah, I know. But they're also trying to claim that the game is woke. So, because I think there's like another trick that could be happening when Baskin says the game is woke, in my opinion, what she's hoping you'll do is say, well, I'm not going to play this game anymore, or I'm not going to buy it, because she doesn't want you in the community. But I think if you just sort of embrace it and say, I would disagree that it's woke, but I just play it anyway and just really double down on the militarism and the role playing of within the game. That'll upset them, because I think in a way they like take glee in. Okay, here's the thing: these people love feeling like they're better people than you, right? That's like their favorite thing in the world, to feel like they're better than you. I actually have a sound for that in here. I'm gonna play really quick if I can find it. But any opportunity that they can get to do that, they will do it. Any opportunity, right?
Am I saying that I'm better than you? I guess I'm going a little further than you are. Yeah, I'm fucking better than you, okay? Much better than you. You are garbage.
Thank you, Anna. So.
Oh yeah, as well. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, Anna Kasparian. Back when she was like absolutely normal, and now I don't know, she's having a bit of an identity crisis. But anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna let you go, chit chat. But thank you for coming in and giving your thoughts. Really appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
All right. You can stay here if you want, but I'm gonna I don't know, how do I'm gonna remove you from speakers. Yes.
Yeah, no,
and I'm gonna bring. I think InQcell is asking to talk now. So let's do that. This is okay. InQcell, you should be able to talk. Oh, hello, InQcell. We try again. I will invite you to speak. You should be able to speak when you get There's a bit of lag, so it kind of sucks. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to mention is, well, I do have this other story of this Star Wars Outlaws thing that's been going around, where they took this actress who was attractive and they masculinized the shit out of her. And I think it's hilarious. Like, it's Ubisoft anyway. I knew Ubisoft was woke from the moment I played the very first Assassin's Creed game, because it's literally on the first screen when you boot up Assassin's Creed 1, they tell you like how important it is that the team behind it was super diverse. And I was like, well, that's weird. Why would you guys tell me that? I knew it. I mean, like in all their games, like especially their Assassin's Creed games, they all have like all kinds of shit in there that's just like really out of place. So yeah, I'm not surprised by this at all. And frankly, I think it's more of a nothing burger anyway. Star Wars is dead to me. I haven't really gave a shit about anything they've done for a long time. I think the last thing I did was I made a video about how they are using the High Republic as a means to retcon the entire Star Wars brand to fit their view. And the retconning of everything is like something that they do in fiction, but they also do it in real history. They retcon history, they retcon reality because they want it to match their vision, and they want you to be unable to remember anything that's real and know what real is. And that is demoralizing, but that is on purpose. All right, I got a request to speak from Problematic White Guy. You see if that works. You are, why isn't it working? I'm gonna try and maybe I'll have to wait a bit. Maybe I have to wait a sec. Problematic, if you see this, put a comment in the chat and let me know if you're able to join the call or not. I mean, I see you in the Twitter space, but for some reason I tried to give you permission and it's not working. You try again in QCell. All right. And I don't know why it's... Am I doing something wrong? I think Twitter Spaces is kind of shit. Elon Musk, fix this shit. Stop launching rockets to Mars and fix Spaces. Do you mind? All right. Still nothing. I will invite InQCell to speak one more time and see if it works. So just wait until my invite goes through. It might I think there's a bit of lag from when I do something and when you see it. Harry Pierce says Twitter is lagging currently. Yeah. Yeah, Twitter's kind of laggy. I think it's because, I mean, it could be because of how many people are on it. And Nova fan, stop going into space and fix Spaces. Yeah, thank you. Mr. 0303 says Chit Chat Cat is the MVP. Yes, very based. I think he's pretty dope. All right. So let me see. I got a request from InQCell. We're gonna hit it and we're gonna wait and see if this goes through. I don't know why it's not working. Did you? Let me see here. All right. Well, I'm gonna try again. I'm gonna if I don't get anything, I'll send me another request. I'm gonna look at the rest of this Park Place thing. So, this is the screenshot from Outlaws, and I wonder if there should be pictures of the woman. Actually, John Delrose has it on his website. This is right here. No, wait. Yeah, here we go. So he writes an article, Kotaku's Alyssa Mercante, who, by the way, despite the fact that Kotaku's supposed to be writing like game guides now, is still writing opinion pieces. Weird. Is hot and bothered over Star Wars Outlaws' manly K-Vess and hate campaign against gamers. This is the actual actress. I'm just going to leave this up on the screen for men of culture while I take this request. That's what she's supposed to look like. So, right? Should be added. Why isn't it going on? Maybe I have to invite people. You should have gotten my invitation to speak. Yeah, they say that every time in all their games. Yeah, I know, but I saw it in the very first Assassin's Creed. And I thought, that's weird. So this is like what the actress is supposed to look like. and this is what she looks like in the game. And they're claiming that this is an issue of technology, but I mean, obviously that's not. Like, if anyone's played, any game in the last like couple of years, there are plenty of models that resemble the actor. And frankly, I just to be clear, I'm actually not for the models looking like the actor. I prefer when the in-game models look like characters and not humans. Like, I don't know, like I like that it had a bit more of an abstract appearance. Like, if you played I don't know, like if you played Leon in Resident Evil 4, in the old Resident Evil 4, or Ada in the old Resident Evil games, she looked like a character that did not exist. The old Lara Croft, for example. And now they're like, no, we want it to look like this person, but they never really go through with it. I mean, look how jawed up she is. What is this supposed to be? What's with this 1970s feathered hair on all the Star Wars characters? Like, it's like the only thing they know is that it has that 1970s, like, you know what she looks like? You know what she looks like? Honestly, have you guys ever seen the Warriors? You know the leader of the gang that's chasing the Warriors that frames them? The guy from that Warriors. That's what she looks like. Should look that dude up. They look the same. So anyway, Grumps is gonna get a lot of hit pieces. They're gonna come after him for this. And I think that they do this on purpose because it makes them feel like better about themselves. And especially the main reason I think is that they don't like men enjoying anything, especially attractive things, especially attractive women. They really don't like that. And so they try to take it away from them. Meanwhile, they have no problem sexualizing dudes, like at all, even if they're underage dudes. They're totally down with that. All right. So this is a Larian Studios thing. One other thing I was gonna mention is Grums made this request, and I want to know what you guys think about this. Meanwhile, I'm gonna try to invite InQcell to speak again. I don't know why, or maybe I'll make him a co-host. Maybe that'll work. Then co-host invite, and I will do the same for Problematic as well, just for today. And we'll see if that works. So, the real Bob Newman says we need more anti-communist team curation lists. Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it? There's plenty of good stuff out there if you know where to look. So,
check.
Oh yeah, hey InQcell, what's up?
Oh, it's working already. I think it just happened to Twitter unfucked itself, like the main page unfucked itself just now. So
okay. So it wasn't me, it's Twitter.
Yeah, no, it was Twitter's broken. It periodically does this thing wherein even the main page doesn't load properly or anything, and it just happens periodically.
Come on, Elon.
It just happens.
Do you want people to drive your electric cars? You have to fix your Twitter website. Just get that working. Okay, what do you want to say, InQcell?
All right. I guess can I go back to the Helldivers stuff?
Yeah, we can go back to the Helldivers stuff. Sure, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing that I've noticed, there's one quote from Paul Verhoeven that they like to, the media literacy people like to go on about that. It goes something like he wanted to create a so in-your-face parody of fascism that people that get it would be tormented by people who didn't, right? This is their thing. This is what the media literacy is about to them, wherein if you find in any way any kind of appreciation or aesthetic appreciation to the quote-unquote bad guys in Starship Troopers, they're obviously a fascist and
it's a
like you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're self-reporting, you're confessing to being a fascist, and you're stupid, and you're stupid because you don't get it, right? This is what even though Starship Troopers being Paul Verhoeven himself being an idiot that didn't get the book, that didn't care about the book, and just overlaid fascist aesthetics.
He didn't even read it. He said he read like for 20 minutes or something and put it down. Yeah.
And on top of it, being politically illiterate shitlip. So
yeah,
this is the disconnect that like the media literacy people don't get. They don't get that we do get it. We just appreciate the aesthetic, and you're that they are the stupid ones. Like they don't get it. They think that everyone else is self-reporting as fascist and they are stupid. So there's like weird cycle that their reasoning is stuck in. And these, to take it to Helldivers 2, I think that is what they go with. That is who they are, right? And I'm not just talking the community managers, but the developers as well, because the trailer starts out with the mixed race family. Like, this is the first thing that immediately saw, like, okay, what's happening here, right? Well, the issue is that,
and by the way, nobody complained about that. I don't know if you noticed. I didn't hear anyone complain. They were just like, okay.
Well,
like
internet racists like me did, but most people don't. Most people don't see
most
that
people didn't care. No, I know.
But like immediately, like, okay, so what is going to happen? Is this going to be like fascist aesthetics with somehow everyone is a progressive, like, like, is it going to be mixed race white supremacists? Is that what's going to happen? It's something in that vein. And I think I saw some like deep lore inside the game, wherein if you like listen to a broadcast long enough, there are like dissident sort of talking points coming from the opposing forces, like the automatons and some like bug liberation groups or something like that, wherein there is an undercurrent narrative framing the super Earth managed democracy empire as being the bad guys, as it wanted to be with Starship Troopers, right? They wanted the thing that they wanted in Starship Troopers is this moment of disambiguity of them of Earth being the bad guys, of Rico being the bad guy, and that's why they always haggle about Buenos Aires being a false flag. Already, it wasn't a false flag, but they just headcanon it. Oh yeah, there's actually, if you notice it, they false flag it so they attack hacking wholesome communitarian bugs, right? But there's no such thing in there, so they just have to invent it. So I think for Helldivers, yes, go on.
No, I agree with you. You go ahead and finish. Go for Helldivers. What?
So for Helldivers 2, they actually can do it. They can actually impugn the editorial intent. They couldn't impugn on Heinlein, right? Mm-hmm. This is to me like this. So when the community manager chick goes, Super Earth are the bad guys, I think that's the undercurrent narrative. And there are, from the game design perspective, there is this sort of interesting thing happening where the game itself is like a live performance, ongoing live performance. One thing you might say about how games have evolved is that you're not really playing the same game twice. If you go back for 20 years and you boot up Mortal Kombat or you boot up Deus Ex, you're playing the same game. If you're playing Warframe, there's like 6 different Warframes. It changes from patch to patch. When I played PlanetSide, I cannot play the version of PlanetSide where I could take the Terran tank, deploy it, and shoot like a machine gun with its main gun. I cannot play that. So the games evolve in time, and you're never really, these live service games, you're not playing them twice. And the Helldivers is taking a bit further than that, because the meta game that is happening on the the galaxy screen, where you're seeing the individual sectors being taken over, that's directed by an actual dude. Like, there's an actual dude sitting somewhere with an admin console that is directing these invasions. So this whole thing is
basically like a dungeon master.
Yeah. So it's like a Brechtian sort of theater play or something like it. It's very interesting. But
Go ahead. No, I thought
not really, because another thing is I want to say is on the topic of community managers. There is a thing also that I have noticed, or that is clearly obvious, is this attempt to normalize leftist precepts as the sort of null hypothesis, and to mask enforcement of leftist ideological precepts through neutral rule enforcement, wherein you do this. Okay, no politics. Okay, we are not allowing politics in this gaming space. On this Discord for Helldivers 2, there will be no politics. But you can't say like stuff support LGBT plus community. That's not politics. That's just being a decent human being, right?
Right.
And if you're like, okay, I'm not sure about this, well, then you're just being quote unquote an asshole. Then you're
being political. You're making it political.
Yeah. Your pushback to this very obvious political state to this political sort of
imposition.
Yes. That's actually the thing that is being political, not us engineering a state of affairs wherein we pretend we are actual neutral rule enforcers of this sort of common societal agreement that sort of everyone agrees to is common sense, is just being a decent human being, right? It's not political, it's just being, nice to the LGBT community, and you should support it, right? So I am on the Discord of Mark Kern. I actually have...
me too. I am too. Yeah, you're talking about the one for his new game?
Yeah. I'm
Ember.
I don't want to say too much. I am more involved with it than a casual observer. Let's leave it at that.
Well, that's great. I think that's great. Go on.
So there is these people coming in, right? And for a while, so I know the community managers there and everything. There's been a policy for a long time, like no politics, like don't discuss politics, don't bring this here. Well, just leave it alone. And usually, like the mods came in and said, "All right, stop this, stop talking about this." And basically, a guy comes in and says, like a new guy, when you're a new guy, you have this leaf around next to your name on Discord. And he's like, oh, but you should support LGBT plus community. You should support LGBT plus communism, specifically said. The LGBT plus communism, he is responding to someone, there are some XYZ, some third party is moral busybodies whose morality is LGBT plus communism. And this new guy, which is obviously a shitlib that came to the server he was like, yeah, but you should do that. You should support LGBT plus communism. The communism thing was a bit tongue-in-cheek, but the main thrust of it is, yeah, you should support LGBT plus community, right?
Yeah.
But that's a political statement. That's a political position, obviously, trivially on its face. But there's an attempt to camouflage this as, it's actually just being, neutral. So
yeah, that's repressive. That's repressive tolerance.
Yes, it's basically this repressive tolerance thing. Adorno stuff or whoever.
I think it is Adorno. I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's the book.
I was gonna say Hegel, but yeah, repressive tolerance.
No, it's definitely. I thought either Adorno or Horkheimer. I think it is Adorno. And so basically, this is the tenor of some of these people.
Do you think that Mark Kern himself knows about this? You think that he's aware of these tactics? Because I mean, I don't want to bombard him with a bunch of red pills, but I wonder if he's aware of the tactics of these techniques that people use.
It is my sort of assessment that he is cluing way more that he lets on. He knows.
He knows more than he lets. Okay.
Strategizes. And even this sort of gamers are non-political and centrists, and they are the real XYZ is the real racists. Is a sort of a strategy. It's not really a serious. He's not really doing the Brandon Stracker. He's not actually like a Brandon Stracker sort of Democrat.
You're right.
He is way more.
You think he's more based? You think that he's more based?
Yes, he's more based than he's less on. But he attempts. He takes this sort of audience or viewpoint neutrality to maximize throughput. Let's just say to basically apply Alinsky tactics against the leftists in their own sort of apply Alinsky tactics to liberalism itself, wherein they try to hold these shit lips and extreme communists and extreme woke people to the ideology they came from, to that spawned them and supports them and undergirds the society. So he tries to make sort of maximum strength push through that and make them live up to this anti-racism and anti-sexism. When he points out, you actually people have some nasty things to say about the Jews and you hate white people. Although the anti-white thing is a fairly sort of new Overton window push from the right, I would say, because anti-whiteism wasn't a thing 5 years ago. Like that was basically on par of just being a straight up Austrian Pater fan, right? That wasn't the thing. We were haggling over the definition of racism back. But racism is prejudice plus power, don't you know? It was that way. It wasn't. Nobody was really talking about anti-whiteism as a sort of undercurrent concept
sure.
that should be
If
thought
you-
about. It's just haggling with feminists, haggling with Anita. That if
Yeah.
racism is power plus prejudice, and reverse racism if it exists.
Yeah. It's like if you want to know how long or how old it is, and you go back and watch like some old George Carlin interviews where he talks about like how much he hates white people, you'll probably be shocked. Be like, wow, he used to say that? He's like, yeah, that was actually very common. So, I mean, but like nobody thought there was anything wrong with it. Like we just kind of like normalized it back then. And now more people are being aware, more people are noticing. Well, anyway, InQcell, thank you. I really got to move on because I got to end the show here soon. But what's up?
Yeah, go ahead. You have another dude, I think, waiting. Or
Yeah, I got one more dude waiting to get in. So I want to give Problematic a chance to speak, and then I want to like send a message that Grum's put out that I think we should all take heed on, because I think it is a good idea. I just don't know how much I could move the needle on this tiny little channel, but I think it's absolutely crucial. Anyway, thank you, InQcell. I'm just gonna make you into a regular remove from co-host thing, and I appreciate your feedback. I love how deep these things get because I think that's what we need. So now, Problematic, you should be able to talk.
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, I hear you. Okay.
Right on. Yeah.
So, what did
go
you
ahead.
want to say? Yeah.
Oh,
No, I
well,
just want to give a chance to speak.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of dogpile on the community manager aspect at the moment, just because, like, to me, that seems to be the more prevalent witch hunt that's happening right now, and it's kind of like this thing that, the further we go into this Gamergate 2 expose of the rot that's in the industry, my big issue that I've been trying to get across to people is like, yeah, there's always going to be another witch to hunt next week, and sooner or later, like, they're kind of at the point where they probably appreciate the fact that we're just getting caught up in the surface level distractions. It's like that tweet I put out earlier today about picking the low-hanging fruit off the tree. The tree's still there until we actually uproot that sumbitch. This situation's just going to keep multiplying and prospering and doing its thing, because ultimately this does come down to the actual power brokering that's behind it all, to take what is a fictional concept that's on display in Helldivers 2 and actually turning that into a dystopic hellscape reality that will ultimately be under the boot hill of. And that, to me, seems to be like where the focus hopefully will start to shift to, beyond all these surface level distractions, because we're just creating more of a smokescreen for that larger issue to just keep pressing on, fully ignored. So I that's why I appreciate the work that you're doing, and why I try to support it, and get it out to other people as well, because we have to get beyond what's at the surface level of these issues, because it is a far more pervasive thing that is taking place. And the community managers, in the video I put out today, like I just said, they were hired by a woke hiring manager, and it doesn't have to be some grand conspiracy where everyone's in the know of it. It's comes back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, with the indoctrination in academia, and then that infiltrates the industry and starts to take a hold as just kind of being the fashion of what everybody has to wear to be included in that society. And that, to me, is the bigger issue at play, is
Absolutely
the people that are pushing it from the onset. So
yeah.
and I don't know how we get beyond the easier aspect, though, of saying, oh, there's a witch, let's burn her, and actually get to the point to where we're like, maybe we should just stop, like, allowing sorcery to be the thing that enchants everyone in the first place. We don't have to deal with all these witches, but it is a very sticky situation, because freedom and liberty implies that we should all have some level of autonomy to think how we choose, whether that's level-headed or completely out the window kind of concepts. But the main issue with the community manager is that she is allowing her perspective and ideology get in the way of, what should actually be the focus, which is just delivering the, the measurables on a good game that actually wants to retain its fan base and not, try to make an issue out of the people that are playing it.
Yeah. Well, I think I get what you're saying. So my goal is on Honey Badger Arcade is specifically a channel we talk about cultural stuff, but on Badger live streams, and I'm streaming to both of those places at the same time, we speak more about the issues of gender, but from the perspective that if you fix the situation between men and women, then everything else essentially it's all downstream from there. But we are also very aware of like all of the different ways that our society is being attacked, whether it's like, forcing behaviors through our culture or through education or through the media or just like straight up political force or whatever it is. We are all aware of it. One of the things that I'm trying to do by having these shows is help people because, I've said this many times. Most of the people who are making content in the sort of like Gamergate 2 space. And when I say Gamergate, when I refer to it, I don't refer to it as a bad thing. It is what we have created, is what we're doing. Our response is what's causing it. But what I'm trying to do is not get caught up in every little dramatic thing that happens, but rather help people understand, because people are going to ask, like Geeks and Gamers are going to be like, where is this coming from? People like the Critical Drinker, these people who have massive platforms that like talk about this stuff all the time, they're still not getting like, why is this happening? And I'm saying this is why this is happening. This is where it comes from. These are the signs to look out for. This is what they want, right? So simply like, pointing out, I don't know, like their hypocrisy, for example, which is a thing people love to do. Well, if you can be racist against black people, you can be racist against white people. Like that's meaningless. Like you have to basically say, look, they don't care about that stuff. They only care about power. They want you sick or dead and penniless, and they think it's funny. And this is all of the evidence that shows that. And then it's sort of like we're looking at this struggle to like hold on to what we have. And it's like a fight happening on multiple fronts, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm basically trying to get everyone looking in the same direction because it is kind of coming from one place ideologically. So we know where that is. And there's one crack in the, I guess you could say in the line. Like if we break the line at one point, then that could be where we go. And the reason why I think Gamergate is particularly important is because it is, and honestly, like I've seen this in politics, in media, in the men's rights space, in comic books, in the manosphere, in movies and music and everything else. And the only place where there's been this much pushback is here. And I think that there's something about the mind of these young men that, and I did a video on this the other day, that this is like their last refuge. It's like the last place that young guys can go and just be left alone. And that place is being essentially attacked, right? And they're basically sick of it. And so I see like, I see there are people talking about real solutions. And I think that these things, that what we do to fix what's happening with Gamergate 2, I think will have a ripple effect everywhere else if we can get it to work. And that's why I think it's an important, like, let's say, flashpoint. And by the way, I think that's why they're pushing back so hard against us, because they know it too. It's sort of like in, in Lord of the Rings. I'm not saying we're the orc horde, but it reminds me of the Battle of Helm's Deep, right? And all the orcs are at the wall, and there's one with like the suicide orc with the bomb, and he's like running towards the opening, and then like all of the people see it, and they all have to throw everything they have at him to stop it, and it doesn't work. And it's kind of like that. That's how I kind of see it. And so one of the things I try to do is help people, equip them with the language, and also ask them to be very careful about their language, because words, or as you call it, like, sorcery, spellcraft, whatever, they use words to control reality. And we have to be able to determine what they say from what they really mean, so we understand the words that are being used and what their purposes are, so that we can fight them on the language front and the vocabulary front. We have to understand our enemy, we have to understand their tactics, and we have to have our own like solutions, right? So like, yesterday I did a show with Allison. I think it was yesterday. No, yesterday was Tuesday. On Monday, I did a show with Allison, and I read this Substack from this guy, and it was called The Vibe Shift. And it was a very good Substack because this guy, and he's been making the rounds on all these like major alternative media places doing interviews with people. He wrote this whole thing saying, in particular, and this is also, I think, very important because it's relevant to the show that we do over on Badger live streams, with particularly with young men, young heterosexual men that like basically wanted to just have a normal life with a good career and a wife and children. They are all noticing like that everything that we have been told, everything that we have been taught, everything that we're supposed to know about the world is not what it is. And they're not just like pointing it out, which they have to so that other men can join in, other people that want to be a part of that can join in, but they're also building their own things. And that's what I'm actually ultimately want to see us move towards at whatever pace. And this is why I wanted to mention, and you can give me your thoughts on this, what Grums suggested as that we do. He said for 2 years, no matter what, so like instead of like looking to see if it's a woke company and who their community man, because I guarantee you their human resources and community manager departments are all full of wokies, no matter what the company is. They're likely that's the case because those people get an education in our schools and that's what they're taught. And it's not, I don't even blame them. I feel bad for them, frankly, because I know how much debt they're in and how useless their degrees are. But that being said, he said if you stop buying any AAA games for 2 years, it'll change everything. And it's a big ask, I get it. But I think that we can make a dent if we just stick by that. And all you got to do is support smaller companies or play your old games. You know, if you have like a backlog of games or whatever, just play those and promote the shit out of the small developers because there are definitely gems in there that are just waiting to be discovered. And that's it. That's what I would. And I think that's a good idea. 2 years. It's not that long. It'll be over before you know it. And I think it'll change the industry. So I don't know what your thoughts are on any of that stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good strategy to at least kind of show that there is a reinforced, just understanding of all of us not wanting to be a part of it. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff's been going on the entire time. You see in movies how they have corporate branded, partnerships and things like that, and their product placement and all that sort of stuff. And so that's one of the ways that they'll just continue to mask it is they'll just do corporate inbreeding and spread their money around. And then with, the system of inflation that's in place, that's also another way to continue unbalancing the table because they can always just print more money, and put us even further away from the level playing field that would actually be necessary for a capitalistic mindset to actually have meaning behind it. So while it is important to not support it financially, until we actually get beyond understanding that money is not money is merely the means. It's not the focus.
Right.
So
it's not the goal. Yeah.
Right. It's the power brokering, and so
it is the power.
And so yeah, they can just continue to marginalize every dollar so that it's more worthless and continue to just go on pushing their aims and their values until we actually take note of that and actually, like you're talking about, use discernment by understanding the form of enchantment that's being played out when they do their doublespeak and all this kind of stuff. And that's actually what my next project is more focused on, is kind of how the middle managers, what they're there for is to create the distraction, and they do that through creating these distractionary focus where people just get into the back and forth conjecture of it all, and then all that stuff that we're actually should be dealing with just continues. And until we actually take that next step, we're actually doing them a service by getting caught up in this war between foot soldiers. And to your Lord of the Rings analogy, I always kind of argue that this is a fellowship. I see us more as on that side of it, where like Mount Doom, the Eye of Sauron is just there looking out in all directions. It's like fighting a kraken. You want to take down one arm, there's still 7 that are still ambulating about and causing havoc and destruction. And so it really does take a larger degree of being responsive rather than reactionary. And I'm not going to say that I don't make jokes about this stuff that happen on the daily, because I do, but ultimately that's a small part of at least what my work is in doing this stuff. Like the video I put out today, like it just kind of all the stuff that I've been digging into with this rabbit hole of the WEF United Nations funding models that are really at play. I mean, it's disheartening. And so
Yeah.
I had a video that I was going to put out, and it was just like no, I want to do something that's actually proactive and productive. And so I just ended up putting out a video about like, hey, these are the tools I use to make my own videos, and they're freely available to anybody. Get yourself started, and we can all just actually start doing that more level playing field of entertaining each other and just doing this parallel economy where if they're going to devalue the dollar, they can do it all they want, but if we still have the means to entertain each other and actually create, on a level that doesn't involve them, that's really where the solutions are going to come into play that will actually have an effect on them. That's why when we had our last conversation, at the end of it, I said, you should plant a garden. You should, like, spend your time doing something that's going to be more productive and at the ground level and, more, just viscerally charged with, taking hold of your own destiny rather than allowing this centralized control scheme to just insidiously find its way into every, thought thing you do. We have to disconnect entirely, and just not buying the games in and of itself is, only a half measure, unfortunately. And I wish that would be the silver bullet, as it were, but until we actually, just sidestep the whole thing and just say, look, we can do this without you, and, the world's more connected than ever, we don't have to abide by those systems, but we have to find a way to not do it entirely. And it is a lofty goal to get people to go along with not buying new games for 2 years, and I'm perfectly all for it. I've done it before, and I can do it again. But there's a lot of people. Yeah, but unfortunately, there's a lot of virtue signaling on both sides, and all the points in between on these issues. And it's easy to say something, today, but then again, people be like, like I hear people making excuses all the time for why they still, stick with MCU products and things like that, even though it's completely corrupted. And they're like, oh, but I'll just give it one more chance. Like, everybody's been railing on how MCU is deader than dead, but then in the back of their mind, they're like, but I still might see Deadpool. And it's like,
yeah,
well,
I've heard that. I refuse. I'm done. But it is hard to get people to unplug, or pull out the heroin needle. I get it. Like, trust me, I've seen it. But that's okay. I think we can still make a dent. I mean, and also, and I gotta run because I got other things I gotta do, so I can't go for much longer. But I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I just think that for my part, I want to help people understand what the stakes are, so they know what's going on. I don't want to get hooked up into every little, like spat that happens. But I understand why, because I knew for some people they're still not there yet. They're not at that point. Like it's like throwing them in the deep end, and they're still waiting at the shallow end of the pool. And I'm just gonna go out to the deep end and say, it's actually not that bad out here. Just come on out if you're able, and hopefully they will. And I think they will. I think that we're in the midst of a great awakening. And all we gotta do is wait. Yes, I do know about Bridge stock. I might make a video on that later. But it might be old news. And there's a lot of people that are doing good stuff, like BX or Bex. I've had her on the show before. I'm going to bring her back on. She's going to talk about all of the stuff that she's uncovered with the Department of Homeland Security and like other sort of government entities involved in this kind of stuff, and not just in gaming, but like all over the internet. Basically anything that is not under their control, there are feds like swimming. There are probably feds watching this show, probably, you know, so, or bots that are like operating as feds. Now that we have AI. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, I agree. But there are people doing good work out there. So we'll see how it goes. I do have to let you go. Do you have any final words?
No, I mean, I could go on for any length of time, but I think we've done good enough of it today.
Yeah, I should end it
close.
there. Yeah, no problem. All right, well, thank you, Problematic. I'm going to take you off here as a co-host, and I'm going to end the show. So let me move this back here. Thanks, guys, for coming on the stream today. I'm sorry for the abrupt ending, but I got to end it there. I didn't get any super chats or super chows, which makes me kind of sad, but that's okay. So anyway, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notification, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think about what we talked about on the stream today. And yeah, please share this video. I really appreciate that because sharing is caring. Thanks so much for coming on today's episode of, is this Badgerpod GamerGate? Yeah, Badgerpod GamerGate. And I'll talk to you all in the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Activists are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.